Hello everyone, this is a demonstration video for using curves to color correct a photograph in Photoshop. And so here I have a photograph and it appears to have sort of a yellow cast over it, and I want to try to correct that. So I'm going to come down to the Layers panel and click on this circle icon. It opens up this menu and I want to select Curves. It opens up the Curves panel. And it has these options that I can use. So one of the first things I want to do is identify a dark point where the shadows, the darkest part of the shadows, or black, and the lightest part of the highlights, or white. And you can select this shadows or black slider, and as you click on it, you can hold down the Option or Alt key and sort of slide it over to the right. And wherever you start to see color coming in first is going to be the darkest part of your photograph. So I can see here that on the left side there's some color starting to come in. It seems like some pretty good dark points. So I'm going to zoom in and sort of move the photograph over where these shadows are over here. I'm going to double check it again. See where that dark point is, get a really good grasp of where it is. I'm just going to go right here. And so if you press I on your keyboard, it'll select the eyedropper tool. And if you hold down Shift, it'll have a little crosshairs that go right next to the eyedropper. And if you click with the Shift held, it'll have a sample point on that photograph. And it opens up the information panel too to give you what the colors are at that point in the photograph. And so we're going to track this to see what it is to begin with and how we can sort of alter it to get it into balance where we want it to be. And so I'm going to do the same thing. Let me zoom out. So that's our first sample point. I'm also going to do the same things for the highlights or the white part of the photograph. So I'm going to hold down Alt or Option and slide it. And wherever I start to see maybe the first points of where color is showing up and the lightest point. And so I spent a little time with this photograph before this demonstration video, and I found something within the photograph itself, not in the edges or the frame, but within the photograph itself that I thought would be a pretty good point. And it's right on sort of the fascia, right near the roof of this building right here. So I'm going to track this just for a minute to see which point might be the whitest. So I'm going to select this one right here. Hold down Shift, click, and that will be a sample for my highlights or the white point. So let's get started with that. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right, and so the first thing I want to do is go to the number 1 sample, and so I can see in the information here that there's a lot of red. So I have RGB, starts with R from the top, and then G, and then B at the bottom. So there's a lot of red going on, and not a lot of green, and not a lot of blue. So as a general guideline, you want your shadows to be about 10 to 12 or thereabouts for each channel. So that's my target for this. So I'm going to go to the red channel and the curves panel. Then I'm going to bring my eyedropper tool down to the number 1 sample point and get right in the center of it. Hold down Command on my keyboard and click, and if you come over to the curves panel, you can see it added a point on this curves line. And so what I'm going to use is the arrow keys on my keyboard to make adjustments. And so if I'm looking on the information panel, it's at 9 right now for red, and I want to bump that up to about 12. So I'm going to press the up arrow, bring it up to 12, and then I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to change it to the green channel, and I'm going to do the same thing. I have to go back to my sample point on the photograph with the eyedropper tool, get in the middle of it, hold down Command, click, and it adds a point on the green curve. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the arrow key and watch the information panel to watch the green go up to about 12. And then I'm going to stop and go to the blue channel. Same thing. Hold down Command, click, watch the information panel, press the up arrow on the keyboard, bring it up to 12. And so what I'm doing here is bringing the shadows or the dark points into balance with the photograph so that those colors are correct. And the reason I'm making all of these colors of the channels the same is because if all of the colors are the same value, that is a true black or grayscale. And that's what we're trying to do here, and that's through all of the shadows and the highlights. And then a little bit later we're going to try to find and select a gray point to get the midtones. Alright, so now we have the shadows balanced. Now let's try to go and balance the highlights. So I'm going to zoom into the photograph, look for our number 2 sample point right here in the middle. Alright, and I'm going to start over and go back to the red channel. Do the same thing. So in the center of our sample point, hold down Command, click. Alright, now I'm looking at the information panel and the number 2 sample point. And so right now the red channel looks like it's on 247. And a guideline for the highlights is to aim for 242 or thereabouts. And it doesn't have to be exact, but as long as you're within about between 0 and 2 points of all the channels having the same value is pretty good. So if I had 242 for red, maybe 240 for green, and 242 for blue, that should be fine. As close as you can get it to the same, like all being 242, is the goal, but whatever works best. Alright, so there's 242 for red. I'm going to go back down to the green channel, make another point on my curve, hold down Command, hold down Command and click. And so on the information panel, the green is at 233, so I'm going to bring it up, whereas I brought the red down. So using my arrow key to bring up the green. Alright, that's at 242. I'm going to go to the blue channel. Same thing, hold down Command and click. And so the blue channel is pretty far down. It's down in it's at 182 right now. So I'm going to really have to bring it up a lot. And to bring it up a little bit faster, I'm going to hold down Shift and then press the arrow key, arrow key. And it goes up in larger increments. So I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. One more time. There we go. Now I'm going to let go of Shift and just do it one at a time, all the way to 242. Alright, and so that's all the highlights. So I'm going to zoom out for a minute and take a look at our photograph. So now we're really starting to see a difference and see some of the colors come into balance. And I can toggle back and forth to see the difference on the layers panel. So it's starting to look pretty good, but I might not be super happy with the midtones of the photograph just yet. So these greens of the trees, they sort of look very very desaturated, not very impressive at all. So I'm also going to search for a middle gray in the photograph. So I tried to look for a black, I looked for what I wanted to be a white in the photograph, and now I'm going to search for a middle gray to see if I could bring the middles into balance. And so I'm going to search around the photograph just for a minute, see if I can find something. And so this rooftop right here seems like it's probably a pretty good middle gray. So I'm going to choose it and see if I can use this as my guideline for bringing in the middle channels of the photograph. All right. I'm going to hold down Command and press and click. I'm sorry, I'm going to hold down Shift and click to create my third sample point. All right, and then I'm going to go through each channel like I did before with the highlights and the shadows and see if I can bring in the midtones. So I go to my third, hold down Command and click. And on the number 3 sample, so right here is a sort of a good lesson. So the number 3 sample has 3 very different colors. And in this case, what you want to probably do as a guideline is go for the middle number. So in this case, my red is lower than the green, and the green is in the middle number, so I'm going to bring the red up to match the green. All right, so I'm going to bring it up, pressing up on the arrow key, and there's 152. All right, and so since green is pretty much where I want it to be at this point, this is a total guess, I'm going to leave it where it is and then go down to the blue channel, select that sample point for blue, hold down Command, click, and then I'm going to bring down the blues a little bit in the midtones to 152. All right, and let's see if we can take a look at that and see what that looks like. All right, so I might have brought back a little bit of the green, and if I want to, what I can do is select the green, the midtones of the green, search for the, zoom in to get my third sample point again, and I can even increase the green a little bit. So if I hold down Command and click, maybe I raise that number to be higher. Maybe I want those greens to be a little bit more vibrant than where they were. And this can be just a trial and error thing where you just sort of bring it up and see where you might go too far and then maybe bring it back a little bit. Maybe I'll leave it there for a moment and take a look at the photograph. So they have the greens are a little bit better. So anyway, you can keep toying with this and keep selecting different points in the photograph to try to bring those midtones a little bit back if you want the greens to be a little bit more vibrant, or maybe the blue in the sky or anywhere else in the photograph. But that's the basic technique of using curves to color correct. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.